The NASCAR Chicago Street Race drew the most viewers for a NASCAR Cup Series race on NBC since 2017. This report is coming from Sportsnaut. They report that the Grant Park 220 contested Sunday on a street course in Chicago averaged just shy of 4.8 million viewers between NBC and Peacock. That made it the most watched NASCAR Cup Series race on NBC since a visit to Indianapolis Motor Speedway in 2017, NBC Sports said Monday. It was also the most watched NASCAR race outside of the Daytona 500 on any network in more than 2 years. So that is actually pretty good, because if you remember, they actually have been having some struggles at the NASCAR Cup Series race this year, declining viewership throughout most of the races, especially after the Daytona 500. You were just seeing it drop further and further and further over on Fox and Fox Sports 1. They do note here that viewership peaked at 5.383 million TV viewers when New Zealand's Shane van Gisbergen captured the checkered flag, becoming the first driver in 60 years to win his NASCAR Cup Series debut. Notably, the race was delayed and shortened from 100 to 75 laps due to rain. And basically, there was just like lots of water on the track, standing water, that would have made it very difficult for the drivers to navigate the course. But that is interesting to see that the Chicago Street Race had lots of interest in it. NASCAR was heavily promoting it as well. It also, I think, was the first race to be on NBC this year, so that might have had something to do with it. It'll be interesting to see if NASCAR can keep that momentum, NASCAR and NBC can keep that momentum, or if it will follow a similar trend to what we saw with Fox, where we kept seeing declining ratings from race to race. And it'll be interesting to see if they do come back to Chicago next year, whether or not it can match that, and if people were actually really entertained by the racing. As for me, I thought the racing was pretty fun to watch. I like seeing Van Gisbergen kind of cut through the field there. There was a lot of drama, too, that NASCAR created on itself by not letting teams know that they were going to shorten the race after people went in the pits and stuff like that. So that kind of created an interesting aspect and ruffled some people's feathers, but that makes for good TV, in my opinion, and makes for a much more exciting race, and can kind of see what people can do. And it did look like there was the course was challenging for people too, and I think that had a lot to do with the rain. A lot of people were spinning out there in turn 2, I think, and turn 6 were like the two big spots where drivers were struggling. They were getting in too hot and just lots of crashing, lots of wrecks. But a lot of times they were able to keep going, so that was really nice to see, instead of bringing out the caution and having cautions out all the time. I will say, though, when they did go into that turn 6 and they got underneath that tire barrier, they had to bring out the full course caution. I do think it took way too long for them to get back up to green, and that's probably because the track trucks are just so much far away from where that wreck was, and hopefully maybe they can rectify that if they come back to the same course next year. But I thought the racing was pretty entertaining. Still not as good as a lot of the local short track stuff, but for a NASCAR Cup Series race, it was pretty good.